It's Monday, May 25th, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. The Barbados government is not interested in cutting the wages of public workers. So maintains Prime Minister Mia Mottley, who said the public servants will continue to receive their full salary packages. She, however, said the Ministry of Finance and Labour officials will meet today to discuss her government's proposed national pandemic solidarity bonds. Addressing a virtual service yesterday to mark her Barbados Labour Party's second anniversary in office, the Prime Minister said the government wants to issue the bonds to help the country get through the COVID-19 crisis.
We are not interested in cutting persons' pay, but we are interested in creating a scenario where we can carry as many Barbadians as possible. And to that extent, therefore, what we're proposing is a form of forced savings, what I'm now going to call a national meet and turn. Tomorrow morning, the Ministry of Finance officials will meet with the labour movement, and they will explain how this will work. And believe you me, every public servant and every person who is paid by government will receive their full salary package. The majority of it by far will be in cash. But we are asking some to look at bonds that will carry interest rates of 5%. Why? Because at the end of the day, the government is going to have to be the one driving the capital works program in Barbados, dealing with water, dealing with roads, dealing with cleaning the country, dealing with building gabions, dealing with building schools that are the subject of environmental problems every week, or other facilities that government has that literally are in bad need of repair.
The Prime Minister called on Barbadians to play their part and to stay focused.
I'm sensitive to the fact that every Bajan needs to play their part, but I equally do not want you to be out of pocket. And that is why, in the same way that this government refused to touch savings bonds when we were restructuring the debt, I'm going to insist that we find a way of immunizing and protecting those bonds that any public sector worker or any other Barbadian may take as part of the national pandemic solidarity bonds that the government of Barbados wants to issue to help us get through this moment. What is COVID-19? A once-in-a-lifetime event. And what we must be careful not to do is to so restructure and alter all of our relationships rather than recognizing what we need is a bridge, a long bridge, a deep bridge, a wide bridge, to the other side. And in doing that bridge, recognize that when we get over there, let's do things better than we were doing it before.
The COVID-19 pandemic has consumed a lot of the political energy of the Mia Mottley administration. So says political scientist Peter Wickham in his assessment of the ruling Barbados Labour Party's second year in office. He tells Barbados Today a lot of the government's objectives will have to be revised in light of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's interesting that this 2-year period, the 24th of May, which is the second anniversary, is coming during the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and I think that the issue of COVID has essentially consumed a lot of the political energy of this current administration. And even as we look back and say, well, how well have they done over the last 2 years, I think what we're more focused on is how well are they managing the pandemic. Certainly the jury is still out. That's something that we will have to answer at the end, but it's fairly clear that issues such as reducing government expenditure, reducing government borrowing, and keeping all of those limits in relative, keeping those limits together, are going to be affected by the pandemic. That will cause government to deal with issues of salaries to public servants, will also deal with issues of potential layoffs, and government's revenue from the private sector will be severely constricted. So I would say that it seemed as though we were on the right path as we approached the 2-year, but it's fairly clear that a lot of the objectives, a lot of the goals will have to be revised in the context of what has been happening now.
Wickham said he is concerned that the health crisis has derailed much of the progress that has been achieved in the last 2 years.
I would say that even if we did not have the pandemic, we clearly still have problems in areas of transportation, Crime continues to be a problem. The roads appear to have been improving over time. And issues such as garbage collection and so on, I would say, have all but disappeared. But we're still having some water challenges. Of course, people are complaining about that, and that's a reasonable complaint. But by and large, I would say that as we approach the second year, and more importantly, as we approach the halfway point, which should be the end of this year, it looks as though Barbados is actually going in a direction of dealing with the issues, going in a direction of bringing change, fundamental change to the way that the economy is managed. Remember, the economy was a major concern. So I'm not unhappy as a Barbadian as we approach the second term, but I am a bit concerned that the COVID issue has derailed much of the progress that has been achieved in the last 2 years.
Meantime, political scientist Dr. George Bell has described the ruling Barbados Labour Party's second year in office as a problematic one due to the COVID-19 pandemic. He gave his assessment of the party's stewardship on the current affairs program, The People's Business, last night.
The government would have done less well because of the difficulties in the governance environment. And that governance environment has worsened considerably. We know that in the second half of the second year, the rise of the COVID-19 pandemic, that is the basis for making us very concerned with how we will go forward. And that is where we will probably have to wait and see how the government handles that. They handled the management of COVID-19 initially well. Otherwise, we won't be where we are now. But there are uncertainties in the way forward, especially as they're grounded to in the economy. And the economy has taken a tremendous blow. And we already were brought out of a trough at the time of the victory 2 years ago. So now to be facing this future, which is now worsened because of the COVID-19, leaves us wondering how this is going to be done. And we can only wait and see for the time being. So I would say that the second year looks like it would be more problematic, or the second year has been more problematic, I should say. The first year was handled quite well.
The Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association is in its second phase of assisting in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Chairman Stephen Austin said the BHTA's COVID-19 assistance program has been providing support to tourism industry employees, the government, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the Harrison's Point Isolation Center, the Paragon Facility, and charitable agencies.
We started in March with our own employees for Phase 1, which saw member properties and businesses providing care packages, including food supplies and cleaning products to their team members. Our membership also donated food supplies and linens, including bed sheets, pillowcases, and face and hand towels, to the QEH, the Paragon Facility, and a number of charities across the island. For Phase 2, the BHTA donated critical supplies, including 80 beds, as well as pillows and linens to Harrison's Point. In this second phase, our members have also donated a wide range of items to assist with the cafeteria at Harrison's Point, including serving utensils, tables, tablecloths, chafing pan sets, and juice dispensers. This pandemic is affecting the entire country, and at the BHTA, we are very aware that we all have to play our part. We all have to work together in this fight, and so we are committed to providing support wherever we can. As time goes on, we will execute the other phases of the program accordingly.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors now, the Trinidad government mulls over strategies to assist stranded nationals at sea in getting back home. Some 53 cruise ship workers are expected to return home today, and over 300 more remain on various vessels at sea. We get more in this report from TV6 News.
With more than 340 TNT nationals on the Royal Caribbean also waiting to return home, government is now considering extending their time on board to ease the demand on state resources.
So what I'm going to try to work out with the cruise ship company is come anchor in our waters, and let's do the quarantine of the cruise ship workers, those 300 plus, on the ship with our public health officials monitoring and doing the necessary medical assessments and examinations. Hopefully no positive cases present, and you come and you go home.
The minister also gave an update on the repatriation of our students across the region.
What we had done is ask the principals of the three campuses, because there are various examination dates and they're different in each campus. So I've asked them to work with us to work out the preferable date for the students, and that will be crunched hopefully in the next couple of days.
And finally, on the international front, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has defended the actions of his chief advisor Dominic Cummings, who has faced growing calls to resign for allegedly driving 250 miles during national coronavirus lockdown regulations.
I've had extensive face-to-face conversations with Dominic Cummings, and I've concluded that in travelling to find the right kind of childcare, at the moment when both he and his wife were about to be incapacitated by coronavirus, and when he had no alternative, I think he followed the instincts of every father and every parent, and I do not mark him down for that. And though there have been many other allegations about what happened when he was in self-isolation and thereafter, some of them palpably false, I believe that in every respect he has acted responsibly and legally and with integrity, and with the overwhelming aim of stopping the spread of the virus and saving lives.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.